Are you ready for one simple truth that can rewire your whole life? Here it is. Your mind is not a prison. It's the key. Tonight, I'm not here to give you more information. I'm here to light your fire, to crack open that stubborn ceiling in your head and smash every limiting belief that's holding you back. This isn't a pep talk, it's a call to arms. Impossible is not a fact. It's an opinion. Let that sink in for a moment. How many times in your life have you let that one word, impossible, dictate what you do, who you become, what you settle for? We treat it like it's written in stone, like it's some kind of law of nature, but the truth is, it's nothing more than someone's perspective, someone else's limitation, someone else's belief that you accepted as your reality, and if you can accept it, you can reject it. You can rip it out by the roots and replace it with a new belief that fuels you instead of shackling you. Think about it. Every single breakthrough humanity has ever had was once labeled impossible. Flying through the air was impossible. Splitting the atom was impossible. Talking to someone on the other side of the world in real time was impossible. And now it's so ordinary that you don't even question it. That should tell you something. Impossible is temporary. Impossible is flexible. Impossible is a test. It asks, do you really want this badly enough to challenge me? Here's the problem. Most people don't even push back. They hear that little whisper, impossible, and they retreat. They shrink. They let that word become a wall. But the truth is, the wall isn't real. It's paper. Thin. The moment you lean into it, you realize it collapses under pressure. You've been standing in front of a door disguised as a wall, and the key is courage. The key is belief. The key is refusing to bow to someone else's opinion of what can or cannot be done. Your brain loves to trick you into comfort. It wants to keep you safe, predictable, unchallenged. So when you dream big, when you aim for something that stretches you, your own mind starts whispering impossible. But that's not a fact. That's your nervous system trying to protect you. And if you don't interrupt that pattern, it will rob you of your destiny. You know what separates those who break through from those who stay stuck? It's not intelligence, it's not talent, it's not luck. It's the refusal to let impossible be the final word. It's the decision to make impossible fuel, not a barrier. It's looking at that word and saying, okay, that's your opinion. Now watch me prove it wrong. That mindset alone creates breakthroughs because energy flows where attention goes. The moment you decide that impossible is an illusion, your brain starts scanning for solutions, for possibilities, for leverage you never noticed before. Think about your own life. How many times have you already done something that once seemed impossible to you? Maybe it was running a distance you thought you'd never survive. Maybe it was getting through heartbreak when you thought you'd never recover. Maybe it was building something, achieving something, creating something that once seemed out of reach, and yet here you are, which means you've already shattered the illusion of impossible more than once. If you did it before, you can do it again. The world is full of stories of ordinary people who did extraordinary things simply because they refused to believe the label. The Wright brothers weren't geniuses. They just wouldn't take no for an answer. Oprah Winfrey didn't come from privilege. She came from struggle, but she refused to let her circumstances define what was possible. Every innovator, every leader, every pioneer had that moment when the world said it can't be done. And they said, watch me. That's the difference, maker, and here's the truth. Impossible will always show up in your life. You don't outgrow it. Every time you raise your standards, every time you set a bigger goal, every time you aim higher, impossible will stand in your way. That's good. That means you're stretching. That means you're alive. The goal isn't to avoid it. The goal is to confront it and smash it. So the next time you hear that word echo in your head, remember, it's not a fact. It's not science. It's not destiny. It's just an opinion. And you don't have to buy into it. You get to write your own definition. You get to turn that wall into a doorway, that barrier into a breakthrough. The only question is, will you let impossible be the excuse that keeps you small, or will you use it as the challenge that makes you great? Because the people who change the world, the people who live with passion and purpose, the people who leave a legacy, they all have one thing in common. They don't accept impossible. They redefine it. They own it. They crush it. So right here, right now, decide. Impossible is not your reality. It's just a word. And from this Moment forward, it's not going to stop you. It's going to ignite you. Think about it. Have you ever met someone who has all the knowledge, all the tools, all the resources, and still fails to follow through? Of course you have. Maybe you've even been that person. You had the information, but you didn't take action. Why? Because the psychology wasn't there, the drive wasn't there, the belief wasn't there. You were trapped in fear or doubt or hesitation, and no amount of strategy works when your mindset is broken. On the other hand, how many people have you seen who had no blueprint, no experience, no safety net, and still found a way to win? They didn't have the perfect strategy. They had hunger, they had belief, they had psychology that refused to quit. That's the power I'm talking about, because when your mind is aligned, you'll find a strategy, you'll create one, you'll invent one. When your psychology is strong, strategy becomes almost irrelevant, because you'll make whatever you have work. Let's be real, strategy is important, of course it is. But strategy without belief is like giving a map to someone who doesn't believe they can travel. They won't take the first step. They'll keep staring at the paper, telling themselves all the reasons it won't work. The real key is to fuel the psychology that says, I don't care what it takes, I'll find a way. I'll make it happen, because that energy activates the 20% of strategy in ways nothing else can. This is why two people can be given the same business plan, the same opportunities, the same resources, and one explodes with results while the other crashes. It's not the plan. It's not the skill set, it's the inner game. One person looks at obstacles and sees dead ends. The other looks at obstacles and sees a puzzle waiting to be solved. That's not strategy, that's psychology. The question is, what psychology are you living in every day? Are you living in fear, scarcity, hesitation? Or are you living in certainty, passion, and determination? Because whichever state dominates your psychology will dictate your actions, and your actions will dictate your results. It's that simple. Here's the trap. Most people think they need more information before they act. They think they need to study more, wait longer, get every duck in a row. That's a lie. You don't need more information. You need more immersion. You need to change your state. You need to ignite that 80%. Because once your psychology is on fire, you'll take action, and massive action with an imperfect plan always beats no action with a perfect plan. Think about athletes. The difference between the champion and the runner-up isn't just skill, it's mental toughness, it's psychology, it's the ability to perform under pressure, to push when the body says no, to see victory when the scoreboard says it's slipping away. That inner belief, that inner certainty, that state management, that's the 80%. The same goes for business, relationships, health, anything. Your psychology determines whether you stick to the workout when it's cold and you're tired. Your psychology determines whether you keep going when your business hits a rough season. Your psychology determines whether you show up in your relationships with presence and love, or whether you shut down. It's the core driver behind everything. So here's the truth. If you want a breakthrough, stop obsessing over the 20%. Stop searching for the perfect strategy while your psychology is weak. Build the 80% first. Condition your mind, prime your state, change your language, raise your standards. Once you do that, strategies become tools you can bend to your will. Without the right psychology, the tools are useless. With the right psychology, even the wrong tools can create magic. So ask yourself, what would happen if, from this moment forward, you lived with psychology that screamed certainty, that pulsed with hunger, that demanded growth? What would your life look like if you stopped waiting for the perfect plan and started trusting your inner fire to make any plan work? Because the truth is, the results you crave aren't hiding in the next book, the next course, the next guru. They're waiting in the psychology you choose to live in right now. 80% of your life's destiny is already in your hands, in your head, in your heart. The only question is, will you master it? Look around. Every innovation, every leap forward in history was once branded impossible. Impossible is not a fact, it's an opinion. When you lean into that truth, you unlock hidden potential. What's true for others can be true for you if you dare to shift your mind. Here's a truth nobody claims. 80% of success is psychology. Only 20% is strategy, resources, or skills. You can have a textbook, perfect blueprint, but if your mind is wired for doubt and fear, You'll sabotage yourself every time. Change your mindset and the blueprint gets executed with precision and passion. Your internal words, those strings of labels you repeat to yourself, shape your feelings, your physiology, your entire experience. When you soften angry to annoyed, you break a pattern. When you swap overwhelmed with curious, you begin to open doors instead of slamming them shut. If you disrupt your words, you disrupt the chain reaction. You don't act like yourself when you're tired, fearful, hesitant. You become someone else entirely. The game changer, shift your state. In an instant, you become courageous, creative, unstoppable. Change your state, change your path. This moment is available to you right now. So here it is, clear as daylight. Shift your mind, reframe impossible. Invest in state over strategy. Reclaim your words and master your state. That's your formula for transformation. Not next year, not tomorrow, but starting right now. I'm asking you, not tomorrow, but this moment. Who are you going to choose to be? Are you going to let your old identity, your worn-out beliefs, define you one more day? Or will you become the author of your future, bold, brave, and unstoppable? The words you attach to your experience become your experience. That's not philosophy, it's reality. Language is the code that programs your nervous system. The second you label a feeling, the second you attach a word to what you're going through, you don't just describe it, you create it. You shape the way you feel, the way you respond, the way you see yourself. And most people don't even realize they're doing it. They use words that disempower, words that shrink them, words that drain their energy. Then they wonder why life feels heavy, why they feel stuck, why nothing seems to change. Think about it. You wake up in the morning, you're running behind, and you say, I'm stressed. What happens? Instantly your shoulders tighten, your breathing gets shallow, your mind races. One word, and your whole body obeys it like a command. But imagine if instead you said, I'm challenged. Same situation, new label. One feels like a weight, the other feels like a test you're ready to take on. Same reality, totally different experience. That's the power of words. Your brain is always listening. It doesn't take your words lightly. It builds meaning around them. Call something a disaster. And your nervous system will give you all the signals of panic. Call it a learning curve. And suddenly you find creativity, patience, and resilience you didn't even know you had. That's not magic. That's the way humans are wired. Words are triggers. They're levers. And most of us are pulling the wrong ones without knowing it. Let me ask you, how often do you exaggerate your pain with language? How often do you say, I'm devastated, when really you're just disappointed? How often do you say, I'm furious, when really you're just irritated? Every time you choose an intense word, you intensify the emotion. You don't just feel what happened, you feel the word you chose. You're stacking suffering on top of the experience, and the opposite is true as well. Soften the label, and you soften the pain. Upgrade the label, and you upgrade the emotion. Language is choice, and choice equals power. You can choose words that shrink you or words that expand you. You can call a problem the end, or call it a beginning. You can call rejection failure, or you can call it redirection. One word leads to paralysis, the other to possibility. Which one do you want more of in your life? Here's the secret. Leaders, innovators, creators, people who shape history. They're masters of language. They don't just react to the words floating in their heads. They deliberately choose words that give them leverage. They speak possibility even in crisis. They speak certainty even in doubt. They don't deny reality, they redefine it. And because they redefine it, they reshape their destiny. Now, I know some people say, but words are just words. No, they're not. Words are anchors. Words are the stories you live inside of. If you keep telling yourself I'm broken, you'll live like you're broken. If you keep saying I'm unstoppable, you'll find ways to break through. Both are just words, but one builds a cage and the other builds wings. You don't need to wait years to change your experience. You can shift it in seconds by shifting your language. Next time you feel anger rising, catch yourself before you say, I'm pissed. Say, I'm a little ticked. Feel the difference. Your body doesn't go into war mode. Next time you feel fear, instead of saying, I'm terrified, say, I'm a little uneasy. It doesn't mean you deny the feeling. It means you shrink it to a size you can handle, and once you shrink it, you take back control. But don't just settle for softening negative words. Add fuel with empowering ones. Don't just say, I'm fine. Fine is dead. Fine is average. Fine is settling. Instead say, I'm energized. I'm alive. I'm unstoppable. Feel the energy shift when you speak it. Words don't just describe your state, they create it. So here's the challenge: upgrade your vocabulary, build a new emotional dictionary, eliminate words that weaken you, replace them with words that lift you. Because every time you speak, you're programming your reality. You're either building walls or breaking them down. You're either chaining yourself or setting yourself free. The words you attach to your experience become your experience. That's not something to take lightly. That's the switch you control. You don't need anyone's permission to use it. The next time life tests you, before you react, before you spiral, choose your words. Speak in a way that empowers you. Speak in a way that elevates you. Because if you master your language, you master your life. Different state, different you. It sounds simple, but it's the single greatest lever you have for changing your life in an instant. Who you are in this moment is not fixed. It's not some rigid identity carved in stone. Who you are is the state you're in. Change your state, and suddenly you change your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, your destiny. Think about it. There are times when you're tired, stressed, frustrated, and you react to situations in ways that don't even feel like you. You snap at people you love, you doubt yourself, you procrastinate, you shrink. That's not because you're weak or broken or incapable. It's because you're in a lousy state. And in a lousy state, even the most brilliant strategy or the biggest dream feels impossible. On the other hand, there are moments when you're lit up, full of energy, driven, focused. And in that state, you're unstoppable. You'll take on challenges you once avoided. You'll come up with solutions you never saw before. You'll inspire others without even trying. Same person, different state, completely different life. We've all experienced it. You've had days where nothing seemed to click, where you felt stuck in mud. Then something shifted. A song, a workout, a conversation, a decision. And suddenly you were alive again. The external circumstances didn't change. What changed was you. Your physiology, your focus, your language. Your state shifted. And the second your state shifted, so did your possibilities. Here's the truth. Most people live as prisoners of their state. They wait for the outside world to change before they allow themselves to feel different. They wait for good news before they feel joy. They wait for success before they feel confident. But life doesn't work that way. If you wait for the world to hand you the right state, you'll be waiting forever. The real power comes when you decide to generate the state you need, no matter what's happening around you. That's freedom, that's mastery, and how do you shift your state? It's not complicated. Start with your body. Emotion is created by motion. Change the way you move, and you change the way you feel. Slump your shoulders, breathe shallow, stare at the ground. You'll feel defeated in seconds. But stand tall, breathe deep, put energy into your body, and your psychology lights up. Your body is the fastest way to hijack your state. Next, change your focus. Wherever focus goes, energy flows. If you obsess about what's wrong, what's missing, what's broken, you'll feel powerless. If you focus on what's working, what's possible, what's exciting, you'll feel empowered. Focus is the filter that determines your reality. Shift the filter, shift the state, and then change your language. The words you use don't just describe your reality, they define it. Tell yourself you're overwhelmed, and your nervous system shuts down. Tell yourself you're curious about the challenge, and suddenly you open up. Language is a lever. Use it consciously, and you can catapult yourself into a new state instantly. When you master these three levers, physiology, focus, and language, you master your state. And when you master your state, you master yourself. That's when life gets exciting, because you're no longer at the mercy of circumstances. You become the creator, not the reactor. Imagine walking into every situation with the ability to put yourself in a peak state on demand. You step into a meeting, and instead of anxiety, you fire up certainty and energy. You walk into a tough conversation, and instead of fear, you step into compassion and clarity. You face a challenge, and instead of doubt, you choose determination. That's not some fantasy. That's available to you right now. Different state, different you. The greatest athletes know this. The greatest leaders know this. The greatest creators know this. They don't wait for conditions to be perfect. They create the state they need to perform. That's why under pressure, they rise instead of crumble. That's why in chaos, they find clarity, because they've trained themselves to shift state in seconds. So here's the challenge for you. Stop letting life dictate your state. Stop letting moods, circumstances, or other people decide who you get to be today. Decide for yourself. Condition your body, train your focus, upgrade your language. Practice it until it becomes your default. Because the truth is, the best version of you isn't hiding somewhere far away. It's already inside you, waiting for the right state to bring it out. Different state, different you. That's not a slogan. It's the key to unleashing the life you were meant to live. The only question is, are you going to keep waiting for the world to shift your state? Or are you going to take control and create the you that you know you're capable of being? Raise your standards, reprogram your language, redirect your state, reclaim your power right now. Mind isn't destiny, it's your launch pad. So ask yourself, will you stay where you're comfortable, or will you change your mind and change your life? Use the mind not as a cage, but as the catalyst.